Welcome to the Rainy Day Rabbit Holes podcast, your escape from the mundane.
Dive into the rich history of the Pacific Northwest with us and let your mind wander down the rabbit hole.
Because in the Northwest, it's always raining something weird. I am Shea.
And I'm Jody. Let's fall down the rabbit hole. Today on Rainy Day Rabbit Holes, we have a very special story, one I really enjoyed researching and writing, and I can't wait to share it with you. But first, we're going to do a Would You Rather. So Shea.
Yes, that's me.
Would you rather be stuck in a 3-hour debate about salmon fishing rights with a grumpy fisherman, or explain the concept of environmental activism to your uncle who thinks littering gives the earth character?
Oh, God. Well, I mean, both of them sound like 3-hour debates.
Yeah.
I think we could go with the salmon fisherman guy.
More reasonable.
I think more reasonable.
The angry salmon fisherman. It's more reasonable.
Yes, than your weird uncle who
Generative discussion.
doesn't think that littering's an issue.
Decorative.
Decorative, yeah.
And I already know the answer to this one, but I had to throw it in here for you. Would you rather have your love letters to a radical activist published as part of a government surveillance leak, or star in a Save the Salmon PSA where you're awkwardly naked and covered in body paint?
I will be awkwardly naked and covered in body paint.
I knew it. I knew that would be your choice.
I think deep down I'm German, I've decided. Or Austrian.
Oh, yeah.
So I just guested on the Gratuitous German for Beginners podcast, and we talked about German free people culture, which I will not try to butcher the actual German word for it. And in Austria and German, they're just like, nudity is totally accepted. So like there's lots of nude beaches and there's a nude portion of public swimming pools. In Germany, they actually have deemed that you cannot tell a man he can take his shirt off, but then tell a woman she can't take her shirt off, because that is sexual discrimination. So women can swim topless now in Germany, and I think that is great. It's only weird if you make it weird, people.
I bet they don't hide their babies while they're feeding them.
No, they whip out a boobie and stick it in that kid's mouth.
Because
that's what they're for.
That's right.
They don't have to be a sexual thing. It's only weird if you're a pervert and you make it weird.
I know. I often wonder if we had never enacted that rule in society, how we would look at the human body today.
Right.
I mean, and originally we had no cover up.
Right.
I was thinking about that when I saw a picture of Neanderthals and they were naked. And I'm like, God, they sit on the ground. The ladies got to protect.
Well, you had a lot more hair.
Well, that's true.
Hair was protection. And I think really clothing probably came about just because you needed to cover up your sensitive bits so they didn't get, cold or scratched or sunburnt. Like, can you imagine sunburnt Willie has to be really uncomfortable, especially as we started losing body hair.
I bet that's when why they started the fig leaf thing.
Right.
Well, we have digressed way off topic because today we are bringing you an episode about the politician, the governor, Daniel J. Evans from Washington State today. Dan Evans was born in 1925 in Seattle, right in the middle of the Roaring 20s. But he wasn't into the Great Gatsby-style suits. He was into Eagle Scouts. He was a Boy Scout and at 15 years old became an Eagle Scout. Did you know that is a really hard thing to do?
Be an Eagle Scout?
Yeah, it's not something that's really easy to accomplish. You earn it, and then you also stick with Boy Scouts until you're older.
So Eagle Scouts is like the advanced degree of Boy Scouts?
Yeah.
Oh,
takes a while to get there.
Okay.
So already he's an accomplished young man, but that's not where he stops.
He's an overachiever for sure.
Yeah.
Already we can see.
Right, as a child. And that's really where his leadership story starts, and helping others, problem solving, and building communities is where he was headed. After graduating from Roosevelt High School in 1943, Evans joined the U.S. Navy during World War II.
Wait a minute. Back up. Where was he born?
Seattle. And he grew up in the Laurelhurst neighborhood of Seattle, where his family... Yeah, that's exactly right. Leave It to Beaver, Laurelhurst era. In 1925 is when he was born.
You can't touch anything under $2 million in Laurelhurst these days.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was, different price, but the same ratio. And his family actually arrived in 1859 when it was Washington Territory.
Oh, wow. Early.
Yeah,
That's
early.
Very cool.
And this is where they ended up being. And his maternal grandfather was actually a senator in our first Senate.
Oh, that's so cool. So he had this in his blood.
Mm-hmm. It was in the blood. After graduating from Roosevelt High School in 1943, Evans joined the U.S. Navy during World War II. He served in the Pacific Theater, and when the war ended, he returned to Seattle and attended the University of Washington. This was continued under the Navy program, so they paid for his degrees, and he received a bachelor's degree and master's degree in civil engineering.
He was obviously very intelligent.
Very intelligent.
And dedicated.
And that was a perfect degree for somebody who would go on to become the Washington state governor and legislate the things that he legislated. After graduating, Evans worked as a civil engineer for the city of Seattle, Associated General Contractors, and in private practice. He then served in the Washington State House of Representatives from 1956 to 1965. He started gaining a reputation as someone who didn't stick to the rigid party lines, a trait that would define his career. Evans believed that serving the people mattered more than party loyalty. One of his favorite quotes was, "I would rather cross the political aisle than cross the people."
Oh, wow.
So he was definitely in it for the people. And while he was in Congress between 1956 and 1965, he saw a lot of things that basically were not getting done. He was really frustrated with our government basically taking our tax dollars and accomplishing absolutely nothing. And they really placated, this might surprise you, to the rich and big businesses.
No.
Yeah. That's
for shame.
I can't believe a government would do that.
No. Kowtow to the millionaires. I don't think there were billionaires back then.
No. 1925, that would be, poof.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. No. In 1964, at just 39 years old, Evans ran for governor. It was a tough time politically and socially amid civil rights movements and changing national priorities. This is during the build-up and time for Vietnam War. So he's, the hippie era where we have protesters in the streets, and government is now in the spotlight as something mass amounts of people are protesting against and what they're doing.
Yeah, the tide has turned to government as being kind of the bad guy in a lot of ways, yeah.
Despite being a Republican in a blue state, Evans pulled off a surprise victory by promising progress and collaboration. He credited his win to working hard to reach the people and earn their trust. He was out on the ground, knocking the doors, shaking the hands, and making the promises to people that he would continue to make progress for the state.
So probably not campaigning on a platform of fear and...
No.
Misinformation?
No, he didn't do that.
Wow. What a surprise.
Yes. No. Well, and I wonder, though, because there were big issues, as we'll hear in Washington State at the time. I wonder if that could be fear-mongering. If you bring to light something that's bad and can be really impactful to your government, it could incite fear, right? So would it feel fear-mongering? It compares nothing to what we see today, but it would probably
Hopefully
feel
it
that way. Maybe
making up things.
Yeah, right. I don't think he did, but nothing I found said he was that kind of guy.
Okay.
When I was talking to my husband about this story, because I just really enjoyed researching it. Sad I didn't know about it earlier, or about him earlier. And sad we still don't have politicians like this or people like this around running our government. But my husband's like, I was talking about the Republican. He was a Republican, but he still managed to make all this legislation that would typically be found with Democrats, and he reached across the aisle. And my husband's like, yeah, because he was Dan Evans, and he was just Dan Evans. Like, oh, what does that mean? He goes, well, he ran as a Republican, but he didn't care about being a Republican. He didn't care about being a Democrat. He was just Dan Evans doing Dan Evans. And it's like, yeah.
I love that. He was like, I guess if I have to pick a party, I'll just pick this one.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm going to go see what needs to be done and the best way to accomplish it. And I don't really care where it comes from,
Sounds so amazing and refreshing, and I wish we could have those type of politicians again.
Yeah, it seems very constraining after reading this or researching this, constraining to have the parties because these agendas really are rigid and competitive with each other. No one's going to be able to make progress at this point. We're just not on either side because we're going to fight. Okay, so Evans focused on practical solutions, not flashy promises. And once in office, he tackled some huge challenges. He oversaw the creation of Washington State Department of Transportation, the Department of Social and Health Services, and the first Department of Ecology in the country, which later became the framework for developing the Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA.
So the EPA did not exist before this?
No.
Oh,
no.
wow.
Dan Evans, the Republican.
Is the reason we have the EPA.
Yes.
Which we may not have for very much longer.
One of the issues while he was in Congress that bothered him was the smog. Seattle was starting to get really smoggy. Mm-hmm. They had already seen what happened in LA, and he wanted to get ahead of it. And no one else seemed too interested in it in the government. It was just life. Keep driving your car, keep making your money. Let's keep going.
We can't see Tacoma anymore, but that's okay, I guess.
Yes, it's fine. Especially if you're from Seattle. You truly don't care.
If you're from Seattle, you're like, it's fine. I'm fine if I can't see Tacoma. And poor Tacomans are over there, they're like, help! We can't breathe.
Exactly. So that's one of the initiatives that he really was passionate about and drove him to run for governor.
You almost said drove him to drink. And it was like, maybe.
Yeah.
I would. It would drive me to drink.
I have had to stay away from current politics because it's going to drive me to drink.
Right.
Each one of these departments he created helped reshape the state and addressed urgent needs like infrastructure, environmental protections, and public health. Before we get deeper into my favorite work from Dan Evans, we need to hear from some departments who are helping us build the infrastructure of this podcast, our sponsors. Welcome back. Did you know joining our Patreon will not only get you ad-free episodes and bonus content, but also make you better than everyone around you? Joining our Patreon will give you a step up in our society as you will carry valuable knowledge others won't have.
That's right. It's going to make you more of an insufferable know-it-all than you might already be, or that's just me.
We're training our listeners.
Exactly. We are going to train the next army of insufferable history nerds.
So go to rainydayrabbitholes.com and search for our Patreon and become a subscriber.
When you hear somebody having a conversation about something in the Pacific Northwest history, I want you to be able to go over there and butt in and go, actually,
yeah.
Did you know?
Please listen to episode of Rainy Day Rabbit Holes.
What I learned from Shea and Jody is that what you're saying is total nonsense, and here's the actual correct story.
Yes.
I want you to rain on everybody's parade like I do.
And then write to us and tell us.
I want you to go on the Seattle Underground tour.
You'd be so proud of me today.
And question their sources. No, I can't do that to them. Beneath the Streets Seattle is actually one of our fans, and we want to give them a shout out. They do a lot of good work bringing to light the history of Seattle, and they give a very entertaining tour. So go to Beneath the Streets and take a tour of downtown Seattle if you're going to visit Seattle.
Back to Dan Evans. He is very well known for his work on environmental issues, and right out of the gate, he went to battle with the timber industry to protect the Great North Cascades.
Ooh. So
Dan Evans did a lot of things, and I'm going to highlight quite a few, but I'm really going to dive into this one because it's close to home for me. I really appreciate Dan Evans on this work he's done.
So are you saying without him, maybe half of Washington would just be clear cut and left
100%
with giant slag piles?
It is 100% fact. Behind the scenes, the U.S. Forest Service, a division of the Department of Agriculture, squared off against the National Park and Department of Interior. Washington Senator Scoop Jackson, chairman of the Senate Interior Committee, told the conservationist park advocates, if you get a big enough parade, I will lead it. So basically they were coming and saying, we need to do something. We're going to lose all of our forestry because we're just clear cutting and not they weren't replanting at the time. They weren't, selecting. They were just wiping out sides of a mountain.
And then probably leaving slag piles. And there's, clear cutting is so bad.
So bad.
I mean, not just for the loss of the trees, but fire control, like all the stuff that springs up when you clear cut is all this stuff that's highly flammable. You've also destroyed ecosystems.
Right.
And they will leave these slag piles that become a fire hazard as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then erosion control as well. Like you lose erosion control, so you're more likely to have mudslides, especially after a fire.
Right. And it's just ugly. I mean, you can still kind of see it as you're driving through. I mean, they're not logging like they used to be, but you can still see where they're logging, and it's just sad. But people were starting to complain and alert our government, hey, we need to do something or we're not going to have any of it. And they weren't too interested unless they got enough people. So Scoop had said, if you get up a big enough parade, I'll lead it. So if you can show me there's enough people that really care about this, I'll jump in.
All right, Scoop, let's go.
And so they did. Conservationists published a book, North Cascades, A Forgotten Parkland. The Sierra Club produced a film, The Wilderness Alps of Shaking. I don't know how to say it. Stehekin, starring its executive director, David Brower, and his family. The mountaineers began turning out guidebooks to put boots on trails. In response to the Kennecott Copper's proposal for a giant copper mine in the heart of the Glacier Peak Wilderness, the Sierra Club went national with a full-page New York Times ad, an open pit visible from the moon.
Oof. U.S.
Supreme Court Justice William O. Douglas and his wife Kathy led a hike up Suiattle River, Suiattle River, to protest the proposed mine. But the National Park and Wilderness cause faced a formidable opponent. The chairman of House Interior Committee, Representative Wayne Aspinall, D. Colorado. So at this point, we're at the national.
Okay. Federal
government now saying we need to make this a national park and we need to protect this area. But oddly, a Democrat from Colorado,
whose name started with ass,
considering Colorado is much like here, evergreen trees, mountains, and wildlife.
And very outdoorsy. Yeah.
Outdoorsy, yeah. So he was not at all on board. And the mining industry was his ally and very much against any protection that would get in the way of mining.
Because they were paying him.
Yep.
Mining lobby, I'm sure, was
right
very important.
And for him, mining and here, timber. So lines of logging trucks appeared to protest outside the House hearing in Wenatchee County. Commissioners argued against locking up public lands. So they were upset that activists were going to go lock up these lands they saw as public. And I guess public land meant I could come cut down all these trees, not public land that everybody else gets to use and enjoy.
No, we're going to sell off and make money off of the public lands off the back of the American people. Yeah, great.
Yep. And activists had locked up the business. So Washington Congressman Lloyd Meads sought to write legislation facing proposals for no national parks, small park, or a larger park. President Lyndon Johnson proposed a park of 250,000 acres. They were asking for 550,000. So Lyndon Johnson agreed to only 250,000. Evans weighed in on the side of a bigger park. Evans sums up his preservation policy in 5 words, and this is while he's governor of Washington State. Wilderness destroyed is never regained. He included an important caveat. Wild places should be witnessed and enjoyed. Evans did not support the faction of the movement who wanted the land preserved and no visitors. They wanted it just locked down, no one enters ever. The extreme side of the preservation. But he felt it was meant to be enjoyed, but preserved. The North Cascades Highway, also known as State Route 20, was built on Evans' watch and had his strong support. During construction, he led a pack trip covering the route of State Route 20. He took a Boy Scouts pack and on a trip covering State Route 20. And he actually, one of the moms was a chaperone, which I thought was funny because it wasn't a dad, but was quite surprised at he was doing the grunt work. Like it wasn't, he was just directing everybody else to carry everything or set up. Or
he's like, this is my wheelhouse. I've been here. I've been one of you kids. I know what I'm doing here.
Yep. And so he really dove in.
Did he ever become a troop leader too?
I did not see that he became a troop leader. He did so many things.
Sounds like something that would have been up his alley.
Yeah. The final compromise, we're still talking about the North Cascades here. The final compromise reflected the governor's approach. Here's the compromise. The North Cascades Act established a 505,000 acre North Cascades National Park in 2 segments, plus 117,000 acre Ross Lake National Recreation Area between the 2 units, and a 62,000-acre Lake Chelan National Recreation Area. It also created the adjoining Pasitayan.
We have some difficult names here in the Pacific Northwest.
Oddly never heard of them for somebody that's been roaming around. I'm like, where are these places? I'm going to go look. And then I'm going to say, thank you, Dan Evans.
I know every time you go to a national park, you should say thank you, Dan Evans.
Yeah, especially here in Washington, because I was actually surprised that these weren't national parks before then. I don't know when I thought national parks became a thing, but I was like, wait.
Yeah, I guess
this is my lifetime
that national parks all sprung into existence at the same time when Teddy Roosevelt started creating national parks. Like all of them at one time appeared.
Right. That's what I was thinking too. Like, okay, they went to a map and they set aside and they go, those are the national parks.
There, and you're done. All right, we're done. Nice job.
Same. Exactly. But no, this is in our lifetime that this is happening. Well, maybe just before I'm born. Not your lifetime, since you're a baby. Yeah, just before I'm born. The protected areas totaled 1.7 million acres.
Wow, that's great.
Yep. Johnson wanted to give 250,000.
Wow.
We ended up with 1.7 million acres. A tired-looking Lyndon Johnson signed the legislation in October 1968, saying the North Cascades National Park and its adjoining acres in what have been called the American Alps is next door to the Pacific Northwest's most populous communities. That sounds profound. What a quote.
That's what he said?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Signing, I know, right?
It's like I'm just stating a fact. And Seattle is north of Tacoma. Thank you very much. You're like, okay, and?
More than half a century later, long lineups of cars park in the early fall at the Rainy Pass and Blue Lake trailheads with hikers headed for high elevation forests and epic views. He also worked on wildlife preservation and helped craft policies that protected natural habitats, ensuring future generations would enjoy the outdoors. Washingtonians owe beautiful parks and clean rivers to Evans. Evans is forward thinking. Yeah, he really preserved our natural wildlife, or preserved our wilderness here. And that wasn't all he did. Want another feather in Evans' cap?
Yes.
The state's community college system.
What?
Yeah, he created that. He pushed to expand access to higher education so more Washingtonians could gain skills and better opportunities and not have to seek out, universities.
Which is impossible for many people.
Many people, and especially, I'd imagine even worse back then.
Yeah.
So creating an opportunity for those that couldn't go to universities. He also supported a women's council addressing issues like gender equality and established a commission for American Indians to foster better relationships between tribes and the state.
Sounds like a real jerk.
I know,
what
right?
a monster.
I know. I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to find out where the bad side is. Throughout his tenure, Evans built bridges figuratively and literally. He was big on infrastructure. Remember, he created the Department of Transportation and was quoted as saying, "I've never seen a Democratic highway or a Republican school." And that philosophy helped him work across the party lines to pass legislation that benefited everyone. He built bridges we drive on today and bridges with his political opponents. He created the Department of Transportation because he wanted a regional transportation system, and we were working in little silos trying to connect. And so he's the one that created this system that we have today.
Too bad it can't really get into the city level, because I'm thinking specifically of that bridge between Tacoma and Fife down by the port.
Oh, yeah.
So there's this
Why
bridge. I think was it 4th Street or something? I can't remember. But the bridge spans the city line between Tacoma and Fife. And they needed to replace this bridge because it was falling apart, and trucks use it all the time because it's down in the port of Tacoma. And so they were like, yeah, we'll build this bridge. Both cities agreed to it. Tacoma started building their side of it. And then when it came time for Fife to do their side, they're like, yeah, no, we changed our minds. So there's like half of a brand new bridge, and then it's blocked off
and not functioning. It's just crazy.
You're like, oh, look, a new bridge. Oh,
except not really.
No, yeah. It's like 15 feet of new bridge. It's like the curbs that you turn off the street onto the bridge are all brand new and look beautiful. And you're like, oh, I can turn. Oh, and then there's just concrete barriers.
Yeah, that's a really curious question. Like, where is the Department of Transportation at state level on that? I wonder.
I don't know. I feel like we should get into this and just investigate that bridge.
Yeah. That's a rainy day rabbit hole. Because, I mean, you're transporting goods over that bridge, or would be. I'm surprised somebody hasn't stepped in and said, hello.
Well, it benefits both cities.
Yes. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't get it.
I think they could go hire like some people.
I know. You would think that the state level could be like, hey, knock it off.
Well, I was just thinking there's a lot of unemployed people in Fife.
Oh.
That can come help to build that bridge.
You got to have somebody that you can actually have work for more than 15 minutes before they wander away.
You've seen the little cities they've built down there.
That's
they can
true.
build a bridge. Just kidding.
That's true.
Here's another reason to admire Dan Evans. He was also about helping refugees. During the 1970s, he welcomed the Vietnamese refugees to Washington. Decades later, he helped Afghan refugees, showing his deep commitment to global humanitarianism. Oh. There is a video that you can see, but it's a YouTube video, and it highlights Dan Evans' life and has a lot of people talking about him. But one of the gentlemen talking about him actually came over from Vietnam. And he was an infant, I think about 1-year-old. And he was actually in California, and they were flooding in at that time. And Dan Evans reached out to California and said, we'll make a home for them here. Oh, and wow. So that gentleman, as a 1-year-old, 2-year-old, ends up in Washington State. Later, after going to college and becoming a successful businessman himself, he starts working with Dan Evans and doing work in the community, because Dan Evans goes on, even after being governor, to continue his good work in the communities. So they work together, helping other refugees and setting up services for the Vietnamese communities. But I thought that was really touching. If you watch that video, it's just hard not to love Dan Evans, because everybody just has the most wonderful things to say about him. And he has impacted people's lives so in such ways that are amazing. And he's one person. He's someone I was thinking 99 years is not enough. Like these people should be on earth for a lot longer. But that's how it is. Evans decided not to run for governor again after his third term, stating it was time to put his family first, and he also believed it was time for new leadership. But even in retirement, he continued serving on boards and advocating for policies that bettered our communities. When he left the governor's mansion, he went on to become a U.S. senator, the president of the Evergreen State College, and later joined the University of Washington, where they created the now Daniel J. Evans School of Public Policy and Governance, ranking among the top 5 public policy schools in the nation. Wow. Yeah. He did a commencement speech there a couple years ago, and he's just, even in his old age, just fun. He's wearing his, the robes and the hat and the tassels. And then all of a sudden he was saying how proud he was to have the school named after him. And he opened up that robe and he's wearing a Daniel J. Evans School of Public Policy and Governance t-shirt.
So cute.
He's just adorable. Dan Evans passed away this last September 2024, just before his 99th birthday. He would have been 99 in October.
Wow.
Evans's legacy is proof that a commitment to service, a willingness to collaborate, and putting people above politics can lead to lasting change. But there is more. Would you like to know the scandal that Dan Evans created? We have it here for you right after we hear some non-scandalous but very important sponsors. Welcome back, and make sure you visit us at rainydayrabbitholes.com, where you can subscribe to our Patreon. Our Patreon is where you not only get ad-free episodes and bonus content, but people have reported increased success and joy in their lives after joining. It's what I heard, anyway.
Yes. It's true.
And now we're going to transition into the scandal. Shea is going to tell us about the big Daniel J. Evans scandal of 1973.
Yes.
I was one.
But before I dive into that, I want to thank our super fan, Letha.
Ooh.
She likes us enough to rock our Rainy Day Rabbit Hole sticker on her Jeep.
What?
She put our sticker on her vehicle.
Oh, I hope I can run it. I hope I follow her someday so I can see it.
I know. I was like, this is amazing. That is incredible. So way to show your love for our stupid show. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much to Letha. We do this for you. So you can always reach out to us and tell us what we should be doing differently. We will listen to you. So Letha also rocked a Rainy Day Rabbit Hole's Christmas ornament on her tree this year, which was her gift for being a Patreon at the Sexy Sasquatch level. And so, like Jody said, if you want that bonus content, ad-free episodes, gifts, merch discounts, and better behaved children and or pets, you should join our Patreon. So just go to our website, rainydayrabbitholes.com, to sign up. All right, here we are. We find ourselves in the midst of 1973. Governor Dan Evans, known for his meticulous governance and steady hand and amazing good works, did something utterly shocking that year. He grew a beard.
I cannot believe it.
It's unconscionable.
I love this story. I just think this story is hilarious.
Yes. He grew a beard and chaos ensued.
Hippie.
For 3 glorious weeks of vacation, which was his first vacation in 9 years. That was longer than a week. The razor was banished to the darkest recesses of the governor's toiletries. Evans, a former civil engineer, justified this bold move with the logic of an engineer, as he told a clean-shaven State Patrol graduating class, to their probable horror, when you multiply 10 minutes for a shave by 3 weeks, you've wasted a lot of time. And I want to put our time to full use. Think of what you could be doing instead of looking into a mirror. He calculated that you lose a week a year in just shaving.
Such a civil engineer.
It wasn't aesthetics or rebellion. It was simple time management. But as far as the voters were concerned, the clock was ticking on his Rip Van Winkle phase. When Evans emerged from his family getaway sporting a neatly trimmed yet shockingly gray-flecked beard, the reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly negative. Letters flooded the governor's office with an outcry as if this were a national crisis. The Daily Olympian covered the scandal early, but things escalated when national outlets like the Washington Post and Bellingham Sunday Herald, that's not really a national outlet, is it? Joined in the beard bashing. Political opponents could only dream of the passionate critiques this beard elicited. Here are some choice excerpts from some of the hate letters sent to the governor. Oh, by the way, we ran into this story and how we got on to Dan Evans in the first place when we visited the Washington State Archives in Olympia. So thank you so much to the staff of the Washington State Archives for pointing out this story and then sending us more information afterwards. You guys are amazing. Everyone should go visit it when they have their tours. It's really cool. If you're a history nerd,
it was a lot of fun. It was fascinating.
Yes,
and truly, this scandal is what really brought our attention to Dan Evans, and then we discovered how wonderful he was in his other endeavors. But this was there's boxes of these about this part of the story. Yeah. Amazing.
So yeah, we would like to give a big shout out and thank you to Ben and Sarah at the Washington State Archives, who were our tour guides that day when it was just me, Jody, and her husband.
Yeah.
Nerding out in the aisles.
Yes. And we were. And they even gave us a little extra time. And we took up more of their time because we just didn't want to leave. It was so much fun.
We saw so many cool things. We saw all of the wrestling permits by like really famous wrestlers like Rock Johnson's dad and Hulk Hogan, and
their health records are
in there. We saw original letters from Linda Hazard when she was in prison. We saw UFO files from the 1950s. And then we saw these letters to Governor Dan Evans. And I was so tickled that I took pictures. They sent me a bunch more. And that is how this episode was born. Okay, so here's some of the choice letters. I see you on news TV. I am shocked to think a man making the big salary as you make and still looking like a wild timber wolf or a Skid Row bum. My husband has too much self-respect to look like you. I think your wife has perfect grounds for divorce. So get that brush cut off, even if you have to put a match to it.
Someone, by the way, letters. These are not little, somebody didn't just jump on social media and type something real quick.
No.
They got a piece of paper out. They wrote this out. They
Some
addressed
of them typed them.
Some of them typed them.
Some of them were handwritten. Some of them were typed.
Then they addressed the letters and sent them to
Put a stamp on it.
They meant it.
And that one was signed I remain a real American. Apparently, if you grow a beard, you're not a real American.
Our husbands.
These were all from 1973. I am very disappointed with your appearance since you went hippie style. Please make a comparison of the 2 pictures of you which I am enclosing. And these were pictures cut out of newspapers and magazines that they taped to the letter. I can't see your family being very proud of you. And needless to say, I am sure you lost a lot of popularity in the state and country. I, for one, would never vote for you for any office again. What are you trying to prove?
Over a beard.
Okay, here's another
What are you
one.
trying to prove?
What are you trying to prove?
I can do what I want.
Coming back from travels, I fell off my chair when I saw this hippie or hillbilly on TV. Stop being hyperbolic. I fell off my chair. I've never fallen off my chair for something I've seen.
No.
The only time I've ever fallen off my chair is when I'm going to sit down and miss it. And usually that's because I'm drunk.
Yes.
When I voted for a clean-cut young man. Now we have a Rip Van Winkle. I would like to know how far back to the dark ages we have to go. Let's go ahead, not back, before it's too late.
Oh, my.
Signed, a disgusted voter.
I wish this is the worst thing that was happening right now.
Yeah, this is early Twitter trolling before there was internet.
There are boxes,
Yes.
files and files of these letters.
There's a full... Yes.
It's not 5 ladies.
No. And who could forget the voter who seemed downright ill at the sight of facial hair? Every time I see you on television or pictures, I turn sick to see you with those awful whiskers. You are a handsome man and make a good impression, but not with those whiskers. I voted for you and want to again, but not with those whiskers. Signed, an American citizen. Oh, I want to also point out in this letter, they misspelled whiskers every single time. There was no H in it. Most of these were poorly spelled. But not everyone at the time was anti-beard. One lone supporter, Tyami Young, a student at Western Washington State College, penned an encouraging note. I thought it looked really good on you, and I'm sure it kept your face warm skiing. I heard we had the only United States governor with a beard, and that made me feel good. If you grew it back, I'd appreciate it a lot.
Oh,
Yeah,
I agree with her.
I know. It's so nice. He actually looked pretty handsome with it.
I thought so too.
Yeah. I mean, he's handsome without it, but I'm a fan of a beard.
Yeah. Yeah. It added something to him.
Yeah. Kind of a hominess. Like it
Yeah.
took him away from just being a politician in a suit to being somebody you feel like you could have a beer with and that he would listen to what you had to say.
Yeah.
It's interesting how facial hair can
Which
do that.
is who he was.
Yeah.
Even without the beard.
Yeah. The media had a field day with Beardgate 73. The Bellingham Sunday Herald led with daylight shaving time in the governor's mansion when Evans eventually returned to his clean-shaven self in January 1974.
So how long did he keep that beard?
So he grew it in the summer of 73
so
and he
he
shaved it in January of 74.
He said, I'm going to keep this as long as I want.
So their commentary was as sharp as his razor. Exit Abe Lincoln. Enter Dan Evans. The governor has decided to come clean and stop beating around the bush. He's given himself the brush off.
Oh my gosh, these are good.
There's one disadvantage. If his political opponents ever catch him in a fib, they might call him a barefaced liar. They were really going for every little
Wow, yeah, they wrung that out.
Meanwhile, the Washington Post wasn't exactly kind to his vacation scruff, calling it a scraggly, dappled, uneven brush the American male grows in the woods on summer vacation.
Okay, according to the pictures, it was very nicely groomed.
Right?
This was not... He looked good.
And when Evans finally shaved, one paper published a hilariously accusatory editorial. You betrayed your brethren in beardom, Governor Dan.
No winning.
Even after its demise, the beard could not rest in peace. By January 1974, the beard was gone, and the governor's clean-cut image was restored. In a press conference, Evans appeared freshly shaven, back to his polished, youthful persona. The state collectively exhaled, and the Bellingham Herald quipped that even Evans' staff must have been relieved. Now the foliage is gone, and even the most staid critic can pass it off as a temporary aberration. Welcome home, Dan. But was it? Or was Beardgate 73 a glimpse into the hilariously human side of politics? A reminder that while policy might be complex, voters will always find time to debate the trivial. Looking back, Beardgate 73 wasn't just about facial hair. It was a masterclass in the particular priorities of democracy. Sure, a governor's job is to lead the state, balance the budget, pass legislation. But throw in some whiskers, suddenly you're unfit for office. So here's to Beardgate 73, a reminder that politics isn't always just about policy. And to those single-issue voters clutching their pearls over facial hair, remember, your ballot carries more power than a razor. Use it wisely. So thank you to everybody that supported us in our first full year as a podcast. 2024 was a rough year in many ways for both of us, but the podcast was always something to look forward to and kept us going. And again, we want to thank you to everybody who supported us, especially on Patreon. Your support is the difference between us going further into debt or staying afloat. So thank you. And thank you, Jody, for your wonderful dive into this amazing governor. Did you know if his kids went into politics at all?
I don't. I was thinking that there isn't a lot. When you look up Dan Evans, his family doesn't just pop up.
Okay.
You got to go search them out.
They've stayed private.
So, yeah, they've stayed pretty private. I could go look. I didn't go down that because I have enough for the episode.
Sure.
It's one of those episodes. By the way, historylink.org is where you'll find a lot of good information about Dan Evans.
Yeah.
And a lot of things, actually. It's a great website if you're into reading about history. Look up anything you want, Washington State history in there. So that's where I got a lot of this information. But even that didn't really cover his family.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it would be like, I have a beautiful fantasy of his son going into politics and
Yeah.
being trained up in the Dan Evans way. And
There's pictures
still trying to make changes
of little Danny Evans with fishing with his dad.
Aw.
There's pictures. His wife, by the way, when he announces that he's not going to run for a fourth term, he's very emotional. It's on. You can see the video on
Aw.
YouTube, and his wife is there, and he keeps saying, "I'm doing this for my family, and I have to put them first." And she's kind of looking at him, and I kind of read on off the look in her eyes, is like, I can't wait for this to be over. But he didn't sit still, so I'm not sure what it was that was impacting the family. But his wife was very much part of his package.
I'm sad he's not around.
Sad there's not more of them.
Yeah, we could use more like him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you everyone so much, and Happy New Year. And I hope that everybody is looking forward to something positive in 2025. So go out there, create art, enjoy your family, do something fun, do something positive for yourself, and we will see you next time.
See you down the rabbit hole.
The Pacific Northwest is one of the most diverse regions in the country.
From thick evergreen forests, wide open empty landscapes, crashing ocean waves, and busy cities, the PNW has something to offer everyone, even the most evil among us. Welcome to the mysterious Pacific Northwest. I'm your host, Jen. Alongside me is my co-host and partner in crime, Sarah.
We both grew up here in the PNW and know all too well the dark and mysterious secrets our stunning part of the country holds. Each week we will tell you stories of evil murders, hauntings, folklore, otherworldly creatures, and dark history, sometimes hidden in plain sight.
Join us as we unveil the shadows and unravel the dark secrets of the mysterious Pacific Northwest.
Follow us on Instagram at MysteriousPNWPod.
And on TikTok at MysteriousPNWPod for behind-the-scenes content for each episode.
And as always, send episode suggestions to MysteriousPNWPod@gmail.com.